to A Well-Designed Business. My name is LuAnn and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company Window Works from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. Before we begin, let me ask you, are you a window treatment professional just like me? Have you heard about the exciting Windows Build a Better Business with Better Customers conference? Yep. The event is happening April 20th and 21st, 2021. Guest speakers include yours truly, along with Stacy Brown Randall, who was one of the co-authors in the first volume of the Power Talk Friday Experts book. She is an expert on referral marketing, and also Stephanie and William Hamilton. They are the owners of Hamilton Creative Solutions, which is a fantastic social media marketing agency. They do the social media for Window Works, handling Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, video production, blog post writing, all the things. Also, the Vin Man will be speaking. So this event is sponsored by Comfortex, who will be on hand to present not only information on all their product lines that we can use as window treatment professionals, but also about the information on the new launch of 38 East, the original fabric line by Window Works, designed by our very own Kimberly Seraphin. The ticket price for 2 days is only $99. This is an introductory price exclusively for non-members of Exciting Windows so that you can spend some time with us, get to know us, and see if our national think tank of window treatment pros are your kind of people. Go to excitingwindows.com/conference 2021. Okay, on the show today, April Jensen of St. Louis-based ADJ Interiors is with us. ADJ Interiors is a 25-year-old full-service, high-end residential interior design firm. April received her Bachelor of Arts degree in interior design and a certificate of art history from Michigan State University, and she is a professional member of ASID, and she is NCIDQ certified. Under April's leadership, ADJ Interiors has been featured in several publications and has received numerous design awards. Today, April is going to share her client onboarding document with us. It's something that, even though she's been in business for 25 years, she's recently developed and started implementing in her own firm. She calls it her 10 rules of engagement. And this is a very helpful primer for clients to prepare themselves and for April to prepare them for working with her and her firm. Okay, so keep listening to see how April's document addresses all those sticky client situations that really can sometimes derail a project, right? But April does it with a very cheerful and positive vibe, and it's designed to educate and inform her potential clients rather than intimidate them or put them off from the very beginning. All right, so looking forward to sharing this conversation with you. Hi, April. Thanks so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
Hi. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah. So, April, I love this conversation that we're going to have today. Your company has developed a document called the 10 Rules of Engagement. This is your roadmap that you teach your clients on what to do, what to expect, how to work with you. And I'm looking forward to the conversation because I know that each designer approaches this differently. I remember way back in the first year or so of the podcast, Rachel Cannon was one of the very first designers that talked about her document. And you guys will put that episode in the show notes so you can listen to that as well. And many designers have come to me over the years and said because of that episode, they had gone on to develop their own document. And here you are, 25 years in business. And I think what you said to me a little off air was that you guys internally followed this document, but it's only in the last year that you decided to make it a formal document and include it with your client deliverables in the beginning of the project. Is that right?
It's correct. So when we engage or commit with a client to do their project, or they commit with us, we give them obviously a contract that we negotiate, but then we also give them this 10 rules of engagement, an introduction to each member that will be on their team that will be working on their project through ADJ Interiors. And this 10 rules of engagement kind of outlines the process by which we will go through and engage with them to finish their project. And what this does is it brings up items that we feel are problem areas that can act as pitfalls in a project, whether it's a large project, a small project, but it helps clients understand some of the things that they might not be thinking about in the beginning of a project because they're so excited about doing this and their dream home, their dream space, and it engages them into considering lots of other things that might be involved besides the end result. We always say it's kind of like, waiting for a baby. There's lots of things that you have to go through before you get that little bundle of joy. And it's very similar. And a lot of times it's things they've never thought about, and it just kind of helps them understand that we're taking this project extremely seriously. We're very respectful of their time, their budget, their emotions, and everything they're wanting to achieve. But we need them to get into the same mode as we're in so that it goes as smoothly as possible.
Right.
And allows them the least amount of stress.
Well, that's the thing. You want the least amount of stress for them and for you as a team, because that helps create a better outcome. And so one of the first item on the rules of engagement is create a budget. And I'm just going to read for our colleagues out here. It says, without clear financial parameters, we can't plan your project effectively. With a budget in mind, I love this, parentheses, and in writing, we'll be off to the races and on the right track from the get-go. So I love that right there, that little, like, this is a real thing, like not just a thing in our mind.
Yeah.
It's in writing, right? So when you explain this to clients, what are some of the reactions and things that they say at this moment?
Well, I think what this does is it introduces the conversation, because a very common response to this is, I'm not sure what my budget should be. And that's when we say, well, we can help you develop it, or we can say, we can develop and help you create this budget based on your overall scope of services. What are you hoping to achieve? And that helps us outline that project in general, to kind of get it on paper, to say, okay, this is everything that's going to happen with your project. It's a bit tedious in the beginning, but what it does is it helps create this roadmap of everything we're trying to accomplish for them, and they have it in writing what they're wanting to accomplish. And when they read that, so many times they'll either add or maybe eliminate some things, and that a very concrete roadmap to help them develop a budget. And so many times, because we have the experience that we do, we can give them a really solid estimate based on that scope of services to say, okay, here's where we think you'll be at with your budget. How does that sound? And then as we go through, they might say, oh, wow, that's exactly what I was thinking. Or, oh, wow, that was a little bit more than I'm wanting to deal with. So it just starts the conversation. What we have noticed is so many people have never had the conversation with themselves. They don't even know what they think they're going to spend. The husband might think one thing, the wife might think another. The builder might not, so the builder might think another, so it just gets it out there. It's like the elephant in the room. And so many times people don't want to talk about money up front. But I think it's crucial because, if you tell me you want marble, but your budget is not marble budget, I can tell you right away. And then maybe you'll make choices on something else because your priority might be, no, I have to have that marble. So where can I adjust my scope so that I can kind of get what I want? Or can you help me with this budget so that my overall intention can be achieved? So I think you have to talk about money up front. It allows us to give them a good budget with us too.
It allows us, say it again, it allows them to,
it allows us to give them a really good budget with what they're going to be spending for design services as well. Because we know based on a scope of services that this is going to take, however many months. And we know in general through this process that we'll go through of how many hours per month that's going to take. So it really gives them a really, eyes wide open entry into their project.
Okay, so I love everything about this. I love the idea of helping them understand what's realistic. At this point, you're on the same team. So to your point, if somebody non-negotiable, I have to have marble, but non-negotiable has to be in this budget, then it becomes very easy at that point, and it's not a pain point and it's not a struggle to just say, so what do you want to give up to get the marble, right? Like you're going to give up something, right? You're either going to give up the budget or you're going to give up, flooring or lighting. And at that point, like I said, you're on the same team. Let's work to make that happen. Let's get it in the budget and keep the marble in the budget. So, but it's not emotional at this point because they haven't seen the 16 other things. They just come to it knowing I really want marble or whatever, the exact thing would be for each individual person, right? So I love that. I love that you said that the purpose of it is to start the conversation about finance and to get it out in the open and to have have it all the cards on the table because this is the time, to your point, to educate the consumer on what the expectations that they have are. Are they reasonable? Are they not reasonable? Right? So this all happens in step one. So that's awesome. I love that. And then, number two.
We have
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, we have noticed that no matter what your income level or however large your project is, everyone is surprised by how much it takes to create whatever space they're trying to, whatever project they're trying to create. They're always surprised by the price. And that's why I think it's really great to talk about that up front, because there is nothing worse than seeing someone go through this entire process and be disappointed that they believed that marble was in their budget from the beginning and it never was.
Right. And that's your job, by the way, to check that.
Right. It is.
I mean, that is your job. If I am unknowingly going along thinking the whole time I'm getting marble and nobody who's smarter than me on this project, which guess what? That's you, tells me I'm not getting it. Why would I think I'm not getting it? Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. I also, I was going to go on to number two, and I will in a second. I just want to say that I also noticed in there, part of the conversation, you're saying how in this process of talking about the budget and coming up with the estimate for the budget, you're actually giving the opportunity for the potential client or the client at that point to see the sheer number of things that go into creating a project. And that's a great time for us as a consumer to say, whoa, it's so good. I love it. Great, great number one step. Now, number two, this is a good one too. Decide on details as a family. We love sifting through opinions and preferences in our discovery phase. Switching directions in the middle of a project is a little more difficult to manage. Getting your entire family on the same page when your project begins means that our team can easily translate your collective vision into reality. In other words, don't make me redo the stuff just because you didn't ask everybody what they thought, right?
It's a gentle way of saying, typically we are working with homeowners, husband and wife, or partners, and so many times people don't communicate with each other. And it takes a long time, maybe weeks, for them to understand what each other want. And so we really try to get everyone on the same page quickly. So we really ask people to, have conversations at home, talk to each other about, things. This may sound silly. What colors do you like? I mean, so many times we assume that the other thinks exactly like we do, and they don't. I mean, my favorite color might be green, but my husband hates green. So how do we maneuver through this? So I think it's really great to introduce to people that, hey, you are a team, and you're our most important member, but you guys have to be on the same page. So let's have some conversations. I think it's very important that, so many times interior design, it's so it's psychological. It's so emotional. It's so important to, our comfort and well-being. It's serious. It sounds like it seems like, oh my God, that must be so much fun. But it really has to do with the environment that you're living in through good times and troubled times. And we want everyone to be happy. And that includes both partners. And I really try to get everyone on the same page so that we can understand them as a whole instead of individually.
Well, what I love here is that, instinctively we all know that when we're working with a couple, a family, that we do need everybody on the same page. But this is, as to your point, it's a very politically correct way to say this is a pitfall. This is something that others have not taken the time to do, and it just creates chaos for everybody involved. So we get that it's a process. We get that it takes a moment. We get that it takes a few conversations, but get to having those conversations. Like, just go do the work, right?
Yeah, okay, and it does. And in the end, the way that you can sum it up the easiest for them, it takes longer, and that costs you more money.
Exactly.
All the way across the board.
That's right.
It takes longer.
That's where you hit
if
them.
It's longer to build, you're going to spend more with your builder. You're going to spend more with your interior designer, your architect. I mean, if you're making changes on the fly, I mean, it's just, an Achilles heel to the project.
Exactly. Great points. And then number 3 is commit to the scope of work. Our team defines our projects with a detailed eye, using the scope of work as a navigation tool. We're able to accurately slate timeframes and deadlines from the beginning. While we love it when clients add to existing projects, it's also important to understand that adding to the scope of work means adding to the budget. Again, a home run, right? It's like, yes. You're going to get this great idea, and let's build a little cabana out there, but that's not included, sweetie, right?
Right. Well, and everything's organic. You want people not to be inhibited, not to, you don't want them to be afraid to make a change, but we want people to understand up front, if you've established this scope and we've established this budget based on that scope, when you start adding or changing, that changes not only time, but budget across the board. And we have noticed over my beautiful 25 years that usually is a very reality to homeowners, or, and we just like to talk about it up front. I like to get everything out there. And I just think it makes them realize. And you can also say, okay, remember number 3, rules of engagement. This is what happens, and you can do it. Right. And we're happy to help you. But, just know that it's going to change things.
Right. We're not adding fries to the burger without more money. You asked for a burger and a Coke. If you want fries, it's more money.
Yes, exactly. Okay. Yes.
I love it. And then number 4 is make confident choices. We understand that making detailed decisions can be stressful, but we're here to make it easier. Our role isn't only to create the space of your dreams, it's to be your sounding board. Be confident in your vision as you move through the process. Changes in decision and aesthetic direction can cause unnecessary delays and charges. You can stay confident with our team in your corner. That's great, because that is a big thing too. People flip-flop. They pick it, they change it, they pick it, they change it. And this is saying, again, all of these are saying things, the hard things, in a nice way, right? It's just stop.
Right.
Just, you know what? You like it, I like it, we both like it. Let's go. Right?
Please don't take everything that we just talked about and ask your best friend, your mom, your sister. That is, it's like just
designed by a neighborhood committee, right?
Oh gosh, it's just terrible. That is probably, to me, what causes me to just kind of bang my head the most, where they love something and it's so, you could be weeks into an aesthetic, a development, and the mom say, oh my gosh, why would you do that? And they're like, well, my mom said, or my
Yes.
dad said, or my best friend just told me.
Right.
And it's
the dog barked twice, and that means he doesn't like it.
Yes, it derails it. And it's just, it really, and I know I keep talking about budget, but at the end, that's what people remember, and that's what people get really hung up on, is their budget and what they're getting for their budget. And it just, and those are the things that they forget about too, so if they make, 10 changes, they might remember 2.
Right.
And then they're like, why does it cost so much? Well, remember all of this? That's why.
Yep. That's right. I love it. Great, great, great thing to include there. Then number 5 is be a great teammate. It says our clients become part of our team the minute a contract is signed. Great line. This means mutual respect is agreed upon from the start. Another killer line. From honest, respectful communication to reliably attending regularly scheduled meetings and sticking to timelines. Working closely together with the same goals and gravitas for your project is paramount. I love this, number 5. It's basically be a nice human, right?
Yes, yeah, and yes, it is. That's really the bottom line. And no one puts out their best work when you're under stress from someone who might not be treating you with, their best attitude. And you just don't perform well for people when you're under stress, or you're afraid of getting yelled at, or you're afraid of hey, I'm going to go here and he's going to be 20 minutes late, or she's going to forget the appointment, or she's either way, it is a mutual respect thing. And same on our end. We can't show up late. We can't be crabby or distracted, or it's my way or the highway. We're a team, and it's just like any relationship, and it's important, and it will matter to the success of your project.
What I love about it is that things like almost everything, all the things that you have here, we consider them as understood as good business practice, good human relations and customer relations practice. But it is when things get under pressure that these are the places the things fall. So it's very nice to have this ahead of time so that you can sort of use it to reframe and regroup. And we understand. I'm being flip when I'm like, be a good human, right? But the thing is, there's two situations. There's a situation where somebody legitimately is having a bad day. Gosh, we don't know what goes in somebody's day, and we all give grace for that. But when somebody consistently is not nice and is abusive and is late and is all the things, that's a different story. And so that's where this gives you the ability to pull it back and say, I don't come to the meetings late every single time. I don't talk to you that way. Like, we agreed we were on the same team. I've said that a billion
Absolutely.
times in my career at WindowWorks, whether it's with a designer,
Yes,
whether it's with my direct consumer. I'm like, we're on the same team. Like, what's going on over here? So great
absolutely.
number
And at
five.
the,
Yeah.
yeah. And at the end of the day, we all are trying to achieve the same thing, which is
Mm,
overall their end happiness, their and whatever that may entail, we're all working towards the same goal. So it is extremely important to remember that we're all human beings. I think so many times people think, well, I pay you and therefore, you know, you work for me. And that isn't how I I like to go through life. And my
no.
work is extremely important to me. I'm passionate about it. I spend so much time doing it. But at the end of the day, I cannot work in an environment that is hostile. I can't work in an environment that is automatically just kind of cutting the project off at the knees because at the end, I'm responsible.
Right.
Know
Right.
these things are continually happening. I know it's not going to end well and it's not
Right.
going to be a success. So I think it's important to be able to speak up for yourself, whether you're being paid by this person, this company, whatever, to say, hey, we need to be nice to each other and we
Ex-
need to work together and we need to be kind, as you say. And
exactly.
I think sometimes the civility of people during stress can become very a lot lower,
No, it's the truth.
especially
It's
when you have
absolutely true.
the budget. And it doesn't matter if it's a big budget. It's a big budget. No matter what the budget is, it's the budget of the client. And whether I think, oh, this is a small project or a big, it's their big project,
That's
and
right.
that
That's right.
adds stress. Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely. It's the truth. Everybody's money is important to them. They worked hard for it. But it doesn't give you the right
absolutely,
to not be kind. So love it. And then number
exactly.
6 is trust the process. The interior design process can sometimes be unconventional, whether we're securing art commissions or finalizing finishes. Know that we forever have your best interests in mind while setting the stage, putting the cherry on top, and every step in between. And so this is that sofa looks like it's going to be too big moment where you're like, come on, it's going to be fine. This is what I do for a living, right?
Right, right. Well, I think so many times during the process, whether, you're just staring up at this wood ceiling trying to decide where cans are going to go, or if you're looking at baseboards or furnishings or whatever, it's very easy to like isolate how important one single factor might be
Mm,
versus the
mm.
whole entire big picture. And because we do this all of the time, we can visualize everything that's happening. So many times I think it's near impossible for clients to understand that. So they really do have to trust that we, with our experience, with our education, with our team, know that it's going to be okay. Now, have I ever made a mistake? Absolutely. But I know over the last 25 years, it is very few and far between because we are so diligent and detailed on the backside, things that they don't see. So, what we go through to make those decisions about, the scale of that sofa, it's not flip. It's not an easy decision. It's careful. And they have to trust us in knowing that this will be okay. Right now, you're only seeing the sofa. You're not seeing everything else. So
Mm-hmm.
you have to put the whole picture together before you judge. And that's where
Right.
that trust comes in, that they have to just kind of surrender a little bit to knowing and remembering, why did you hire me in the first place? You've seen my portfolio, you've seen my projects, you've spoken to my clients. You know that it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Remember why you hired me.
I love that. I love that because we're not even I imagine you're not even okay, so my guess is that you probably are a reveal installer, right? So you're going to deliver everything at once. So we're not talking about at like delivering a sofa. We're talking about in the process of
right.
selecting the sofa. And you're
Sure.
now looking at sofa finishes and they're thinking that doesn't go with the floor that we picked last week. And you're basically saying, but it does. You see,
Yeah.
it does. I wouldn't have shown it to you if it didn't. Like, right? And
Right.
so that's
Yeah.
the thing. And it is hard for people like me and others that you work for that don't do this for a living to understand that you do have the whole picture in mind. But like, to that point, that is why you were hired in the first place. And I love that whole, the way that you describe it and rope it around and say, you've seen my portfolio, you've talked to my clients, you know that this is going to have a good end result. Just stick with me on it. This is what I do for a
Yeah.
living, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Love it.
I mean,
Love
for
it.
the most part, I think, from just a human standpoint, it's not comfortable to allow someone to, take over. It is hard to surrender or to say, oh my gosh, I'm just going to trust you, even though I'm not sure. And so many times on small decisions, I'll say, listen, between A and B fabric, trust your gut. Which one do you like better? But that's a little hard to do when you're talking about, putting the entire project together. The big project has to be a situation where you have to trust me. I know I'm going to take your preferences, your likes, dislikes to heart, but you have to trust me. I mean, it would be like me going into the dentist and saying, I'm going to tell you how to do that root canal. I mean, it's just
Exactly.
not possible. You
Right.
have
Right.
to, and I think sometimes when it comes to artistic professions, it's not black and white. There's so many ways, and I think that's where it's easy to get into kind of this um, you know quandary of battling back and forth. How done?
Right.
We here at ADJ Interiors establish kind of a beginning aesthetic. We develop a little beginning aesthetic for people to kind of just keep in the back of their mind, say, okay, in general, this is how we think your project will look. Because the other thing about building, you're never doing things in a sequence that makes sense. You're picking
Mm.
lighting before you're picking sofas. You're picking
Mm.
plumbing. You're picking before you pick tile. So it's very difficult unless someone comes to you and says, I'm going to put all of my interior design together before I ever contact an architect, and I know exactly what my house looks like. You're going to be doing things out of sequence.
Right.
So I think it's really important that that's where you're like, okay, I know this sounds like we're doing the cart before the horse, and we might be, but remember that initial aesthetic that you loved, this will all go with that.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of how we maneuver through that. And we
And
just
that is
drag
the
it
whole
along.
point to hire. That's the whole point to hire a
Yeah,
designer, because when the builder wants to know all the lighting that you want before, the walls are in and the paint is done, you're sort of like, I don't know. I
yeah,
need to see the room. It's like, I don't know. But that's
exactly.
why we
Yeah,
hire you. I
yes,
love it.
yes,
Okay. And
yeah.
then number 7 is stay invested. The colors, the textures, the styles, the overwhelming potential. It can be so difficult to stay focused when conceptualizing your dream space. Don't get pulled down by distraction. Be present for meetings and conversations. Invest in your project with focus and determination. As long as we all stay intentional about your perfect end result, we can't go wrong. So this sounds like there's a point where people are just not having it anymore. They're not. It's not that
They
fun. It's losing
oh,
gas, right?
it's. I mean, I personally, as you read that, can feel the angst in my body for my clients, where they are drained by $1,000 changes, and oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I don't want to pick what trim is going on my can light. I don't care where
Right.
the silverware
April,
is
you know what
going.
moment this is? You know what moment this is? This is, we were using the pregnancy analogy. This is that ninth
Yes.
month. You're like, I don't
Oh,
care how much this is going to hurt. I don't care if I never sleep again because I have a crying
just
baby.
get it
Get
out.
it out.
That is exactly it. And I mean, you can just see it on their faces. And as much as we show up happy and this is gonna be great, this is when they're like, this sucks, and I don't want to do this anymore. And and that's when you're like, and you notice them looking at their watches and their cell phones, and you're trying to make decisions. They're like, what? And I'm like, hello, so I mean, and the answer to this is go on vacation, give me your keys, I got you.
Yes, right. Just
you're gonna
let
come
me give
back
you the
and you're gonna love
timeline.
it.
At this month, go away,
Yes.
right?
Yes, we've had a couple of clients do that for us, and
That's nice.
it went a lot faster and it was amazing and they were happy. But most people can't do that.
No, right,
So,
right.
but yeah.
Well, that's good. I love it. That's awesome. And then number 8 is email your team. With so many details and decisions, it's imperative to have one form of communication. We found that email is the best channel for client communication. It helps with the project's overall organization, which keeps your project on budget. Great little line to add there, right? It's don't text me, don't call me, don't smoke
Don't
signal me,
text me.
email me.
Oh, I hate texting. I hate it because you can't
I do
find
too.
it. And so many times people like group text and you're like, oh my God, what group was that? So we basically in our contract, we have that we are not responsible for items or information given through text message. So that's a big one. That should be like just some big starred one. It shouldn't even have a number. I mean, we won't text.
No, and you know what? Every firm does decide this for themselves. I've had enough conversations to know that some designers don't mind the combination of communication, all the things, but it is up to you to determine how it will be. And that's really the point of number 8, that you have decided for your team, this is how we can keep it organized. This is how we keep it on schedule. And this is the way to keep your project on time and on budget. And if you insist on, it's funny because 1,000 times people will say to me, well, they just texted me. What should I do? I'm like, don't answer. Wait until business hours and then say, thanks for sending that to me. Would you please now send it in an email? Like, it's like, as soon as you give the answer, like if the question is, I don't know, did the light come in? If you say, it did come in, could you email me from now on? Well, then they're not. You got to say, I don't know. Like what happens at WindowWorks is we have salespeople on the road, and the process is once you are done selling the project to the client, now it comes to the office team to manage it. But the salespeople will constantly get texts, hey, when is my stuff coming in? And they look at me all the time. All day Monday, all day Friday. They're like, my client wants to know when this is coming in. I'm like, what do you mean? How did your client, oh, he just texted me, wants to know. I'm like, the answer is call Catherine. He's like, right, but when do you think it's coming in? I'm like, I don't know. The answer is call Catherine. Like, stop.
Right.
Right.
And that's a great point. It's a great point because you have to have very strict boundaries when it comes to communication, because we take a team approach. I am not the only person on the team. I may be the lead designer, but my project manager probably has items that you need at her fingertips. And if you need budget questions, that's at my office manager's fingertips. So we collectively approach this team or collectively approach this project that if you text me, I could get distracted. I could be in another meeting. What if I never asked, my project manager? Then what? So that's why if you email, we're all looking at the same emails, and you're going to get a very efficient answer versus the text that could be lost or forgotten about.
Mm-hmm. That's the thing. It's lost and forgotten.
That's just knowing. Yes, that's just knowing my own personality.
Yep.
And knowing I'm not my best at texting because I'm doing 100 things at once.
Right.
And
The
most
worst
people
is
are
you
these
read the text and you can't answer it then. And then 5 days later, you're like, oh, I never did actually go back and answer that though, right?
days. And you're like, oh my gosh, and you feel terrible. But then I'm
Hmm.
thinking, no, I shouldn't feel terrible. I've asked them not to text me. I mean, it's one thing to say, hey, I'm running 10 minutes late on this project, or
Right.
I'm
Different
running,
story.
whatever.
At a,
Yeah, but
at a,
not crucial things.
road, whatever. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Different
yeah,
story.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
Absolutely. Love it. I love it. Number 9 is here we go. Good one again. Avoid going rogue on purchases and timelines. It says when
Oh,
clients
I
make
hate that.
purchases outside of ADJ or return signed vendor contracts or paid invoices late, the entire project is affected. Late contracts and bills mean an elongated timeline, which can result in additional charges. Purchases made for the space outside of our collaboration may not work, either visually or logistically, and can result in a less than perfect space. Two huge
Mhm.
things, right? And that not signing the contracts timely or paying the invoices late. It's funny because that does happen. People will say, oh, when is that coming in? And you're saying, oh, you know what, it came in, let me send you the invoice, you can pay for it, we can arrange delivery next week. Well, then they don't pay the invoice, and then next
Right.
week they're like, oh, what day this week we're coming? No, see, you didn't pay. Oh, but you said this week. Right. I said if you pay, then it happens this week. I mean, it doesn't happen if you
Yes.
don't pay, right? So that's good. I love that.
I don't know about you, but this one kills me because um I'm always wondering how people conduct themselves with this one, in the sense that, can you imagine going to, I always equate it to like an auto dealership, and think that you're going to drive off the lot with the car before signing the contract and making the payment. It's not going to happen. So first and foremost, I'm a business person,
Right.
and just like most of our clients, they would never, allow such situations. But again, because it's artistic, and because,
Mm-hmm.
it's a sofa, or it's just this, come on, deliver it, I'll give you the money. No,
Right.
no. I'm here. I'm leaving my family every day. I'm doing all this, and I love it. But at the same time, this is my livelihood,
Yes.
and I take it seriously,
Yes.
and
It's
it
funny
is
because
important to be a business person.
yeah, it's so true because we had a What Would Lou Do episode a couple of weeks ago. Well, I shouldn't say that. It's probably a couple of months ago at this point. But one of the things that I said in it was a What Would Lou Do episode, April, is when a designer emails a question to me and they have usually it's a problem. They have some kind of a dilemma or a problem with their client or vendor or
That,
trade. And they, get to a point where they're ready to pull their hair out and they email me and they say, what would you do? And then I answer it on the show. And one of the things of this episode was that somebody didn't pay for something and then wanted to not pay after the fact because they found out how much the product cost or something, and they were like, I should be paying cost on product. Just get me started on that because that's a whole nother hour.
mm-hmm.
But
Right, right,
whatever the
right,
little
right.
nudge was in there, I remember when I read it and then when I talked about it in the episode, I said, and the thing I'm wondering is, why are you not mad here? When somebody doesn't pay you for something, why are you not mad? Why, like, where is that? This is my business. And what you just said, I've left my family. I've not been able to go on another project to do something for somebody else. And you want me to do something for
Yeah.
you, but you don't want me to pay for it. Like, where's that little
Mm-hmm.
That's not going to happen. And that's what I feel like a lot of our colleagues need to develop that little, it's, I understand if I've had one designer, I've had 5,000 tell me I'm a people pleaser, blah, blah, blah. I get it. I get it. That's your passion and all of that. But you have to think about if you are doing something for somebody and they're not paying you, you are not with your family. You are not at yoga class. You are not making money with another client. It is a waste of your time and you're running a business. And I
Absolutely.
think you should be a little pissed at that, quite frankly, right?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
That it is a huge pet peeve of mine. And I, you could go into the psychology of this and the fact that I think for the most part, a lot of designers are, this is personality based. We all have very similar personalities. Um, we again you're wanting to please people, but at the same time, I think sometimes we do it, we're afraid not to be nice.
Right.
And it has nothing to do with being nice. It has nothing to do, I mean, and this might sound, you know, I don't think a man ever sits there and wonders, oh gosh, I don't want to bother them for payment. No.
Well, I'll tell you
100%
what
no.
happens is, I will tell you, I do think that it does happen to men. Do I think it happens less often? Yes, I do. But what the Achilles heel with a lot of men is, and as soon as I say this, you're going to picture half the wallpaper guys and all the trades that you met. They just don't sit down and get organized and
True.
send the invoices out. Like, right?
I think you have hit the nail on the head, and that's why I think a lot of it is personality based.
Yeah.
We're doing this for a reason, and so many times, the right hand doesn't mesh well with the left hand. But I just grew up, and the way I came about, I had to take care of myself, and that money matters, and that's why we're all in business. And there's nothing wrong with making money at what you love, and you're still taking care of your client. And I'm still passionate. I'm not chasing the dollar, but if I'm out there and I'm working, I want to be paid, and I want to collect what I need to pay somebody else. And it's really important to me to remind myself that I am a business person and I am an interior designer.
Exactly.
And it's really, really important for women and designers and those artisans to know that. And it's okay to be a business person.
That's right. That's right. It's so true. I love it. And so number 10, have an amazing time. This one is a true must and rarely ever an issue. You have in parentheses. We found that our love for our jobs and our clients' passion for their homes always results in something magical and amazingly fun. I love it. And then you end it with, we're so excited to be working with you in your new space. Following these guidelines will help make the process go smoothly and ensure we have fun along the way. This is such a great document to put together. It's as you said at the top of the show, you said after 25 years, you took and probably sat down and thought, what are the, 5, 8, 10 things that are the places that stuff is uncomfortable, things that are going awry, and, just turn around and put the positive spin on it. And then the icing on the cake is, as we said, when you present it before any one of them happens, nobody ever thinks they're going to be in one of these things. So they're not upset to read this at this point. They're like, I'm going to be perfect. This isn't going to be me.
It's strategic.
Right.
LuAnn. It's strategic.
Exactly.
Yeah. And they don't, and once they read it, once we kind of talk about it and we review it with clients and just introduce the idea that this could happen, they're like, oh my gosh, does that happen? And we're like, yes, that happens. And they're like, oh my gosh, we will not do that. So it kind of just gives that heads up, that ways map of saying, hey, don't go this way or whatever, so that you can say, oh my gosh, this is totally what they were talking about. Let's regroup. And I just think it keeps it a little less serious, a little less emotional. And we can, and it's easy for us to say, hey, you're not the only one that's gone through this. This is here for a reason.
Right.
Many people experience this, and we're here to help you. And it's going to be okay.
I love that point too, because it does take the onus off any one potential client thinking, because, say you don't have a document like this, say you don't have a long discussion, going through the different points with somebody. When there is a bump in the road and you have to sit and have the hard conversation and point it out, now, there's a potential to think, I'm the only one that this happened to. But when in this lovey-dovey moment where everybody's happy, go lucky, it's, oh, these are the things in my experience. This is my favorite line. In my experience, these are the kinds of things that could happen. And
Yeah.
now it's not like you're a
Yeah.
bad client. It's this is normal for
And
you
I
to
mean,
be like
and
this.
even with, yes, it is so normal. And even when we have already done all this, and some of these things create or, pop their little ugly heads up, it, I do try to remind people that we are all human, and these are on our sheet for a reason, because you're not the only one, and it's okay. Like I had a message from one of my clients that, he's been my client for 4 years now, and he wants to start a new project, and his email to me, or his voicemail to me was, April, it's your nightmare client calling you again. We want to start another project. And it just makes me laugh, because I can call him back and say, it's all going to be okay. We know how to do this.
Right.
We can get you through it.
Right. Yes. No, I love it. It's so good. And it just sets such a professional tone that what I love about this comes based on your 25 years experience, but a designer listening could, even if any designer that's even done only 2, 3, 4 projects has probably experienced many of these things already. And so when you turn around and you create a document like this and you talk about it from a place of confidence and compassion, it sets you up as the leader on the project, which is exactly what everybody that hires you wants you to be. They want you to be the leader of the project. Otherwise, they wouldn't have hired you. They would have tried to do it on their own. So this is a really awesome way to do that. I'm grateful that you were willing to share it so openly, like literally letting me read it and all the things. And you've also given permission for us to put it in the show notes, and people can grab it, or we'll put it in a goodies doc or something like that, because I know people are going to want it, and I appreciate your being willing to share it.
No problem. I started, like I said, I started out 25 years ago, and I have experienced, really, learning experiences along the way. And I think at the end, it's really important to me to help promote positive, professional, educated interior design. And that starts with helping other interior designers.
I love it. I love it. I can't thank you enough for sharing all of this with us and just running through it and getting that benefit of your 25 years experience, April. Thanks for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you. It's been great.
All right. First of all, don't worry if you were walking, running, doing whatever while the show is going on and thinking, I got to write these things down. Because as we said, April has given us her document, the 10 Rules of Engagement. And you can get that at LuAnnNigara.com/goodies, GOODIES. And of course, if you've gotten a goodie before, then you're just going to go back in using your password and get the latest goodie that's been uploaded. All right. Now, as you were listening to April's list of her rules of engagement, I'm pretty sure you were nodding your head for many of the points, right? I mean, these client situations are fairly universal to all of us. We've all had clients who can't decide, can't agree, and won't pay. But April is setting expectations with the clients before the project starts. And that's it. That's where we set expectations before we're in the middle of the mud, right? And yes, the whole document could have actually been just 2 words, be nice, right? Like it really could be just like, be nice. Remember to be nice when everything goes wrong. But pretty much everyone goes into everything expecting that they themselves are going to be nice and the people on the other side of the table are going to be nice. But we know from being in business that this isn't always how things play out, okay? Because the client, even, they are thinking they know what they're in for. Mostly they don't, right? They really don't have any idea of the complexity that is about to go down throughout the project. And if they underestimate, which can happen, how much you're doing in the background, that's when, tensions can get high, because if one little thing isn't right, they're not recognizing that 50 things went right that day. Okay. And this is where I think April's The 10 Rules of Engagement can bring someone back to reality, right? With this onboarding doc, you're showing the client two things: how you're going to conduct yourself throughout the project and how you need the client to conduct themselves throughout the project. Right. And I don't want to imply, I don't think anybody ever does, that the world is full of only crazy clients. We do know that 98% of the people are awesome. But even awesome people under pressure, when they're spending lots of money and feeling like one or two things have gone by the wayside or have not gone well, it's hard, right? The stress is there. It's real. And not everybody reacts appropriately. But like April said, even if it's just saying to the client in that moment, okay, I hear you. And you'll remember, we covered this in number 3. We sort of knew that this is a possibility, that this could happen. And remember, we said this is how we handle it. And so let me just bring you back to, calm this here and get us back on track. Right? I mean, that's what this is all about. So it's very non-confrontational for you to be able to say, I got this. Remember, I expected that this could happen. And that's so comforting to someone else. Think of any situation that you've been in where you were upset and stressed about something and anybody looked at you and said, I got this. I've been through this before. I know what this is like. I don't care what the situation is. It could be anything in your personal life, anywhere, right? Just put yourself in that moment of feeling like someone is saying to you, I expected this. I'm just as upset that it's happening as you are, but I have experience on how to get us through this. That's the key right there. That's what your client needs from you, that leadership in the project. And having a document like this really just makes it so that you can refer to it and say, remember, I actually told you in writing that I knew this could happen. All right. So this is all really great advice from April on handling the relationship part of your projects. But let me ask you something. How do you navigate the back end of your design projects? I have to say, I hope you are using My Doma Studio for that. My Doma Studio provides workflow software to organize all the aspirational, that's crazy pants, the operational aspects of your design projects, including orders, invoicing, online payments, creating design packages, product sourcing, time tracking, and QuickBooks integration. All right. You also have your own client portal there. And MyDoma also provides education and events for you to help you get your business game up to snuff, just like the upcoming 19 Hours Conference, second annual 19 Hours Conference. It's this April 13th and 14th, 2021. So that's next week. All right. Conference is free, and in typical MyDoma fashion, it will be jam-packed with speakers and panels on all the topics that matter to us when we run our business, okay? Topics including beating burnout, benchmarking your business for success, pricing your services for profit, and so much more, okay? So to learn about the conference, go to mydomastudio.com/19 hours, mydomastudio.com/19 hours. And when you sign up for the conference, you'll automatically be signed up to get the free recordings of the event once it's done. And you're also going to get a digital workbook that they'll send you a couple of days before the event so that you can work yourself through the entire conference. All righty. So don't forget, too, if you want to take a listen to Rachel Cannon's episode, that was way back episode 306, okay, because Rachel also had a document like this. And Rachel is a pretty funny lady, and she had a little bit more of a comical twist on hers, if I recall it correctly. But I would say between both ladies' documents, you should be able to craft something that is authentic and personal to your particular business. I mean, that's the thing about it, right? You can copy and paste somebody else's work, but it needs to speak and read and reflect you, your firm, and the areas that you want to make sure are covered before you start your projects. But having someone else's documents does help you to get started and not stare at the blank page, like I always say, right? All righty. Thank you so much for listening today. And by the way, thanks tons for the recent reviews on iTunes. I really do appreciate them. I read every one of them. And I know that it takes an extra step to, log in, do all the things, and write the review there. And so I never, ever, ever want you to think that I take them for granted. I absolutely do not take them for granted one tiny bit. All righty. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Decide to be excellent. Thank you so much for joining me again today. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks, your resource for custom window treatments and awnings. To learn how we can help you on your next interior design project, go to www.windowworks-nj.com. And if you're interested in working with me on your business, either through masterminds or one-on-one coaching, or you want to know how to get my book, The Making of a Well-Designed Business, or you just want to know what's going on in the podcast land and where I'm going to be, all of that is found at LuAnnNigara.com. Thank you so much. Have an excellent day.